Both the Raiders game and the Bears game ended in last-second chaos, and the latter was the final straw to break the Matt Eberflus coaching camel's back. Plus, Jerry Jeudy got revenge against the team that drafted him by having a career night before ultimately losing to them. Vengeance is complicated. Welcome to Shut Up Football. I'm Jeff Stoltzfus. That's Kevin. If you're listening to this show as a podcast, don't. This is YouTube. It's a visual medium. I don't make the rules.
Caleb Williams had 44 sacks coming into this game. He took another 5. He's the most sacked quarterback in the league. And it's just nice to be number 1 in something. Penei Sewell hasn't given up a sack all year, but he took one himself after a trick play that died in the backfield. The Thanksgiving halftime show featured Shabuzi. Sounds like another home run for Big Pharma. Is left-handed erectile dysfunction ruining your life? Ask your doctor if Shabuzi is right for you. Jameson Williams was flagged for taunting after he threw the ball at Tyreek Stevenson's face. If only Stevenson could have caught the ball in his mouth, he could have claimed his 23andMe showed he was all dog and then barked like DMX. Keenan Allen drew a penalty too after he threw the ball to the ref, even though everybody throws the ball to the refs. This game ended in utter disaster for the Bears. Matt Eberflus showed the coaching skills of a brick. Watching the clock tick away with a timeout warm in his pocket. Where are the adults? Bears fans must have questioned their reality and their faith. This damnation comes from a vengeful God. Not since the ark have we seen such wrath. Matt Eberflus was fired after this game, so I guess the Bears do know how to call a timeout. Just as predicted, a cat-and-mouse game between Drew Lock and DeMarvion Overshone. This was Drew Lock's chance to shine after finally beating out injured undrafted third-string quarterback Tommy DeVito and no one. There's literally no one else left. Lock took 6 sacks and turned the ball over twice. Overshone was involved in both, recovering a fumble and tipping a pass to himself for a pick 6. Banshee in a blender, Tom Brady was on the call.
Man, they miss Cookie. He always had a lot of juice.
Talking about cookies and juice like he just gave blood or something. Rico Dowdle finally went over 100 yards. Why does Mike McCarthy look so vexed? He should be jolly. The players were rewarded with a 6-legged abomination. They really put the turd in turducken with this Frankenstein's Thanksgiving. It looked like a coconut crab fucked a turkey. Malik Washington's gravy-covered hands provided a Thanksgiving muffin punch. Go stick your hands in mashed potatoes, Malik. Gravy's natural enemy. Jordan Love had 2 touchdowns in this. Both went Jaden Reed's way. The Packers were rolling over a Dolphins team that went cold at Lambeau. Jonnu Smith mixed it up with the Packers defense. Grabbing each other's face mask is the football version of girls grabbing each other's hair. Jason Garrett said Tua reminds him of Magic Johnson because he's an efficient distributor of the ball and he has AIDS. He's certainly got some magic about him, like how he disappears every year for weeks on end. Welcome to the Black Friday game, a game that makes me miss standing in the cold. Early in the game, they went to commercial, and while Shaq was selling us Carnival cruises, the game went on without us. What the hell happened in those 10 seconds? Did Travis marry Taylor? Al Michaels had to fill us in on what we missed. Gather round the tar pit, children, for another exciting yarn by Grandpa Steak. Michaels and Herb Street took turns idolizing Patrick Mahomes like a golden calf, a feat known as announcer lingus. They even had a moment of self-awareness.
Fans go, the announcers are always in love with them and the whole thing,
That ultimately trailed off into no point whatsoever and more adoration. Rumor has it there was even another team there. The Raiders have a shit running game. There you go, talk about that. The bright spot for the Raiders was Brock Bowers, the oldest 21-year-old, who's become the focal point of this offense. Max Crosby was nipping at Mahomes' ankles all game like an unfettered chihuahua. Despite the championship DNA of the Chiefs, the Raiders were in this game until the end. Or that is, until they pissed it away like a surprise drug test. They could have kicked the game-winning field goal, but they opted for one more play. A play that was absolute fuckery. The Raiders snapped the ball too soon and fumbled it away. What animal spirits possessed this game in the final moments? Patrick Mahomes won this game like all the greats, on the sideline scratching his head. No one will remember how the Chiefs won. They'll just go on beating that drum. Was there even a game? Aziz Al-Shair hit Trevor Lawrence with an elbow to the head as he was sliding, and it cleared both benches. A dirty shot from any angle, and they tossed Shair from the game. He got a 3-game suspension. Lawrence got a concussion and had to be carted off. The Colts offensive line looked like a paint swatch for a medical lab. Anthony Richardson scored 3 times, connecting with Jonathan Taylor and Alec Pierce, and running one in himself. Safety Jabril Peppers was back on the field after a 7-game suspension. He was investigated by the NFL for criminal charges. And if there's a pair of mismatched detectives walking the beat on NFL players, how is that not hard knocks? Drake May was intercepted after the ball rolled tip to nip over Hunter Henry's ungreased torso. It traveled the Henry Highway right into Julian Blackmon's hands. Robert Kraft watched this game with a jury of his peers. Massive respect for Coach Steichen, who in the final minute played for anything but overtime. One of us is losing in the next 60 seconds, and we all get hot chocolate after. Cameron Dicker warmed up for this game amongst the poor. He's a man of the people. Another missed field goal. No thank you, Gesundheit. Kirk Cousins turned the ball over 4 times, twice to rookie Tarheeb Steele, who took one for points. Still Tarheeb's run deep. I apologize for nothing. It was the only touchdown the Chargers had all day. They were stumbling about like a toddler in need of a changing. Lucky for them, the defense kept Cousins in the basement all game and only hand-fed him old crackers. Hard to complete a pass when your only nourishment comes from stale carbs. A.J. Barner scored a touchdown and danced like the Tin Man after he got his rusty joints oiled. That's a wholesome reference. It was bound to happen. Leonard Williams was everywhere. After a Devontae Adams touchdown, he blocked a PAT. He also had 2 sacks. Later, he picked off a pass, and smoke him if you got him. This is gonna take a while. Williams took it to the house. Not that I actually condone smoking. It's a shit habit. But read a book doesn't sound as cool. You know what? I'll try it. He picked off a pass and read a book. You know what? We'll workshop that. Zach Charbonnet powered up the middle for a score. And after, A.J. Barner drew a personal foul for bumping into Jalen Mills as he went to celebrate. Holy shit, is he gonna live? Barner seemed utterly perplexed, as was I. You ram your bodies into each other head first at top speed on every play. You'd think you could handle an unintentional grazing. The Jets were handed their 9th consecutive losing season, and Aaron Rodgers finished this game like he always does, covering his ass. Brian Robinson returned from injury and went over 100 yards with the quickness. Jaden Daniels threw 3 touchdowns, and Juki duked his boots in for another. In the first half, the Titans racked up more yards and penalties than offense, which might seem like a negative, but it is. Will Levis threw a couple of scores to Nick Westbrook-Akine, but it was too late. By then, it felt like they were strangling the snake from inside its belly. This team couldn't catch fire if they were playing with matches in a pool of lighter fluid. Damn it, Commanders, take your foot off the gas. Some of these men have families that will never look them in the eyes again. Russell Wilson had a huge day. He threw for over 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. 4 if you count the pick 6. Pat Fryermuth scored and tried to elicit handshakes from what appeared to be wheelchair-bound Bengals fans. A bold move to taunt the disabled. I have no idea whose belt this is, but from the looks of it right now, there are some very large pants falling down. Nick Herbig forced a fumble from Joe Burrow, and Peyton Wilson took it for points. Burrow went over 300 yards and threw 3 touchdowns. It doesn't matter, not with that defense. Burrow could throw a dozen touchdowns and they'd still lose. Balls were flipping and flying in all directions. Marvin Harrison Jr. and the Cardinals were leading the Vikings deep into the 3rd quarter. But you can never get too comfortable in the presence of a Viking. Sam Darnold found a wide-open Johnny Montfort score. You just got munted. This game had the single most important nugget of wisdom I've ever heard.
Listen, not all sacks are created equal.
Thank you, Greg Olson. Now you tell those jerks down at my gym. Aaron Jones scored in the final 2 minutes and stole the Cardinals' heart straight out of their chests. Take the soul too, Aaron. Leave them nothing. Jonathan Gannon lowered his hat and walked into the closest ocean. Behold the power of the tan side. And this bitch. The Rams are rushing the balls off Kyren Williams. He's taking 79% of the load for them. That's too much load for one man. The Saints went for it on 4th down, and Coach Rizzi chewed an hour's worth of gum in under 3 minutes. Marquez Valdez-Scantling ran a route in less time than it takes to say all three of his names. It was another score for the man, who sounds like a law firm comprised of Spanish explorers. Matthew Stafford had a pair of touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Puka Nakua's put the Rams on top, and their defense made sure they stayed there. Bryce Young is coming into his own, which is a sin. He threw for nearly 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, and no picks. Fans finally have something to cheer for. Completed passes. This game started with an injury to a ref. Not to poo-poo an elderly man's injury, but I've watched it 100 times and I'm still struggling to understand it. How did linebacker Vi Jones ass tackle a ref so hard that it required a trolley ride? They drove him outside and dumped his body in the parking lot. NFL stands for no fucking life insurance. Bucky Irving was like a colony of ants, working his way through the cracks in the Panthers foundation. He had 150 yards and 1 touchdown. Baker Mayfield auditioned for the part of Italian guy in an off-Broadway play. Oh! Grab your readers, this game went to overtime, where the Panthers were in range to win, but Chuba Hubbard was stripped down to his tighty whities. Bryce Young had a chance to dive on it, but he chose not to. When asked about it, he said it was a reaction. Yes it was. Bird fight! Welcome to Baltimore. Come for the crab cakes. Stay because you were murdered here. It was the 2 best rushing teams in the league. Saquon Barkley versus Derrick Henry. Ali versus Frazier. Mario versus Wario. Cue the anatomically questionable graphics. Who animated this? Dr. Moreau? They look like they could tie their shoes standing up. Both teams disappointed on the ground until Barkley finally broke one late. Could Saquon Barkley be the MVP? Philly's never had one before. A statue of Sylvester Stallone? Check. Lead in their drinking water? Check. But never an MVP. Justin Tucker missed 2 field goals, an extra point, and the ending of the film Inception. It was a metaphor, Justin. He missed 10 kicks this season, and it's not even Kwanzaa yet. Jalen Hurts scored 2 touchdowns, including a tush push, which I believe this weekend should have been called the Thanksgiving stuffing. Mac Hollins showed up looking like his time machine caused a butterfly effect that abolished shoes. Fans had to shovel the snow out of Highmark Stadium. Underneath it, last week's fans. It was an avalanche of pain for the Niners. They fumbled 3 times. Meanwhile, the Bills had no such problems. James Cook and Ray Davis each scored a touchdown. Fred Warner suffered cramps and was forced inside. Me too, said everyone's internal organs, begging for survival. Christian McCaffrey looked like a dog scrounging for a patch to do his business. Halftime featured being buried alive. Josh Allen scored 3 touchdowns. He had it 3 ways, like shrimp. Rushing, throwing, and receiving. In fact, on one play, he both threw the touchdown and received it. Amari Cooper locked eyes with Allen and knew homeboy wanted the rock, or something cool like that. A play that caused Chris Collinsworth to warm his pants. Satan was there. I thought he was a Cowboys fan. The Bills clinched the AFC East already. That division is serving hot garbage a la carte, and the Bills are reaping the benefits. Jameis Winston threw for nearly 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. Then, he practiced the role of old man who warns young teens in a horror movie.
Don't go in there. The water park is haunted.
He was also picked 3 times. Nick Bonito, which sounds like an appetizer, took one back for 6. So did Jaquan McMillan, whose interception could only have been made cooler if he landed in a hammock and a drink fell into his hand. Winston has changed the vibe for the Browns.
He loves having fun, and he loves to spread that fun around.
I thought that's what Deshaun Watson got in trouble for. What's the purpose of this giant inflatable semi-nude man with white around his mouth, and why is it sex? The Browns facility has a room for them to acclimate to Denver. It's filled with white privilege and reeks of craft beer. A sky horse gave birth to a baby helmet. There is no God, only Sky Horse, he who births. Sean Payton tried to lead everyone in the YMCA song, but no one joined, and also, there is no T. Broncos GM George Patton is a size queen. 4 of the Broncos receivers are over 6'3". Everything is top shelf, because that's where they put it. Marvin Mims is only 5'10". They kept him as a pet. But on this day, he went over 100 yards and scored a touchdown. Good boy, now sit. This was a Jerry Jeudy revenge game, a chance to show the Broncos they gave up on him too soon, even though he was there for 4 years. 235 yards, 1 touchdown. I guess a Denver C is a Cleveland A. Jeudy's final play was chasing down Winston's 3rd interception. It was a good fight, but they never really had a chance. Not with Skyhorse watching over them.
Hey, guess what? The holidays are fast approaching, and I have a merch store, fooseprints.com, where I sell nothing but football-related shirts, mugs, and a whole lot of other stuff you don't need. So if you celebrate Christmas or one of the weird ones, check it out. We've got Uncle Rico's Passing Academy, Jaws themes Dolphins, a Mike Dick a Bear, a blind ref, George Washington throwing a football, a worst place mug for the slow zebra in your fantasy football league, and my personal favorite, the Injured Reserve Whiskey shirt, or mug. It's a small store, but it's growing over time. That's fooseprints.com. That's right, 'tis the season to be pimping yourself. As Rich Eisen says, if not you, who? If not now, when? So to that end, do you has kids? Because surprisingly, this guy wrote a kid's book. When I lost my job during the pandemic, I created more than just this channel. I wrote and illustrated my first kid's book called A Castle Dreams, a classic fairy tale told from the perspective of a magic castle where it all goes down. And unlike this channel, it's sweet and family friendly. Check the link in the description to find it because Amazon buried the crap out of it. It's money if you buy a physical copy, but it's free on Kindle Unlimited. So go check it out. And now, the Saw Pretzel of the Week. Yummy. This week, the pretzel goes to the refs who don't. I've seen a lot of penalty flags this season that, frankly, didn't need to be thrown. They don't make the game any better or fairer. They're not protecting anyone's safety. They simply don't need to be. For example, 2 weeks ago, Jahmyr Gibbs was flagged for taunting after he scored a touchdown. Not for something that he did, but for something that he said. Words. He was flagged for words. Last week, A.J. Barner got a penalty for accidentally bumping into Jalen Mills during a touchdown celebration. Keenan Allen was flagged because he threw the ball at an official after his head was taken off by a defender, which in the moment might make you say or do something you wouldn't later. Allen's actually resulted in yards against his team. These kind of things should be handled by the league after the game, with fines and appeals, not during the game. So here's a salt pretzel for the refs who don't. The ones who don't throw a flag, even though maybe technically they could. The ones exercising common sense. We don't even know who these people are because they blend into the game, but I guarantee they're there. Like Batman. Just like Batman. So kudos, refs who don't. Your deeds are invisible, but your pretzel isn't. Stay salty, my friends. Thank you for watching Shut Up Football. We do appreciate it. Please leave your comments below. Say hi to your mom for me, and we'll see you next week. Peace!
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys. It sound right, boy.